Montpellier in Syria by conveying a letter to the knights garrisoned there, telling them to surrender. The letter, supposedly from the head of their order in Jerusalem, was in fact a crude forgery, but the gambit worked. The knights capitulated, and the Sultan took the castle. However, it wasn't until the invention and widespread use of technologies like the printing press and then the radio and the television that the modern conception of news was formulated. The broadsheet, the magazine, and the newspaper started to give people a sense of a regularly published digest of news stories. These technologies also enabled the possibility of mechanizing false news to spread propaganda to the enemy. Some of the most dramatic examples of this came in the 20th century, with the use of airplanes to spread propaganda leaflets.
In the Napoleonic Wars, from ships standing off the French coast, the British launched kites bearing anti-morale leaflets. The employment of military aircraft in World War I made possible the wide dissemination of propaganda leaflets. The leaflet confronts the enemy soldier with a tangible propaganda message which he can keep and refer to. Leaflets also may be distributed by tactical, strategic, and liaison aircraft. This surrender leaflet was used against the enemy in North Korea.
And the use of radio to direct transmissions across enemy lines in the hope of swaying public opinion.
In support of strategic operation, radio may be highly effective, limited only by the range of the transmitter and the availability of radio receivers. Psychological warfare broadcasts are flexible and can be altered swiftly to fit a changing situation.
This was by no means limited to psyops against the enemy, though. The very same techniques have been used throughout history to fool one's own troops in an effort to raise morale. In the Civil War, false news was routinely distributed to Confederate soldiers to boost their spirits before a battle, from false reports of Union General Ulysses S. Grant's death to rumors that a world war was about to break out, with England and France siding with the Confederates. In World War II, false news of reinforcements for the beleaguered American Filipino garrison resisting the Japanese invasion of the Philippines kept them fighting long past the point of their impending defeat. One of the most extreme examples of false information spread to confuse, panic, or disarm a nation, however, are news stories that are completely made up from whole cloth and broadcast as if they are real. These stories too, although more rare, can be devastatingly effective in confusing and demoralizing enemies, or panicking the public.
But it's not just portions of the population this group has won over. Far more worrying, they now control an arsenal of weapons left behind when Iraq's army fled the scene. Here, you see a terrifying display. ISIS proudly showing off missiles they promised to use on their march toward Baghdad. Scary scenes like this are nothing new when it comes to ISIS. The group has perfected propaganda techniques that showcase their strength and brutality. Like this recent video, over an hour long, highlighting horrific killing sprees in Iraq, deliberately recorded on video. Bombings, executions, kidnappings, and worse. This production displays glossy camera work and high-level production techniques, as though ISIS were taking cues from Hollywood films such as Zero Dark 30 and The Hurt Locker to maximize the terror. Analysts say it shows how effective a threat ISIS is becoming.
There's money behind it. It's not just idiots. These idiots have somebody controlling them and providing them with equipment that is very expensive. You can't just get in a cave.
One frightening sequence shows ISIS fighters disguised as Iraqi soldiers setting up fake checkpoints. In another scene, a man is hunted down. After being shot, he pleads for his life. "I'm just a driver," he says, "just a driver." What appears to be the man in an Iraqi uniform is shown. Then, sheer brutality. A hail of bullets shot into his back. And that's not the worst of it. This man was accused of working with the US. He and his two sons forced to dig their own graves.
What happened to these people to lose their humanity? Their propaganda is the tool, the only tool that can defeat them.
Experts say, to judge by this video, the reign of terror shows no signs of abating. which is exactly what ISIS wants, even at the risk of their tactic backfiring.
Somewhere around 1976, there was actually a congressional report and investigation on Operation Mockingbird. And then there's some more disturbing stuff that's actually come around updating the situation with Operation Mockingbird and the CIA media control program. But I'm going to play the first 30 seconds or so of this video.
Thought that it was a matter of real concern that planted stories intended to serve a national purpose abroad came home and were circulated here and believed here, because this would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country. Now,